Hello guys, how you doing? Day 278, and today I thought I'd come in and share with you the sixth decision for success. If you've been following me, I've been reading The Traveler's Gift. Amazing story, and just so many great success principles. Definitely recommend it. But yeah, this is a long chapter. Obviously, the main point is about having a forgiving spirit. But I also want to share with you part of another conversation that David Ponder, the main character, has with this new character. And so I'm not going to tell you who it is or where and when they meet. But I will share that the person he is talking to in this chapter is one of the presidents or former presidents of the United States. And so let's see here. So they're both going through a tough time in their life, okay? And so here's a conversation, part of a conversation here. And David says, I'm actually going through the worst time of my life right now. President says, congratulations are in order then. Better days are most assuredly ahead. Two men experience the worst life has to offer. David says, I'm not kidding. The president says, oh, let me promise you, neither am I. And he goes on to share some of the challenges that he's having. And so David asks, so why did you come here? And the president says, duty. And the fact that I knew I could choose to pray for my son while wandering about the White House, or pray as I continue in pursuit of the task that has been placed before me. I'm quite confident the Almighty hears my cry no matter the location. Surely his arm stretched from Washington to here. I also believe the good Lord would rather me pray and work, not pray and wait. President goes on to say, I mentioned a moment ago that we were two men experiencing the worst life has to offer. In a larger sense, we are being presented an enormous opportunity for change and the betterment of ourselves. David says, are you talking about personal growth? I'm not sure that I want any more personal growth. Lincoln says, of course not. Crap. The president says, of course not. And wouldn't that be the easy choice to make? In fact, it is the most popular choice on the planet. But the question you're facing at this point in your life is, how powerful do you want to be? David tilts his head, confused. I'm lost here. In the first place, what does personal power have to do with power? Personal growth have to do with power? And in the second place, no offense, but I have no interest in power anyway. Leaning forward, the president says, Mr. Ponder, if that is true, that you have no interest in power, then an incalculable amount of attention is being wasted on you. David says, I was not the one who... And Lincoln reaches over and touches David's knee, interrupting him. David, now think with me here. Personal growth leads to power. There's a certain level of personal growth that will provide the skills necessary to feed and clothe one's family. There's another level of personal growth that will furnish influence and wisdom in sufficient quantities to be perceived a leader. But to do great deeds, great power is essential. Do not run from power. Gather it as you would the finest fruit. Power in the hands of a good person is like a cool drink of water on a hot summer day. It refreshes everyone with whom it comes in contact. Yet, you see, some people want just enough power to get by. And there are other people who will acquire enough power to make things more comfortable for their families. And they'll include other less fortunate souls in their charity if the personal growth part of the equation doesn't become too uncomfortable. But there are a few of us, David, who have latched onto the silly idea that we can change the world. We will develop the power to ignore what is popular and do what is right. One person can attain the power to lead hundreds of thousands of people to the promised land of their dreams. I think this is very powerful. As children, we were afraid of the dark. Now as adults, we are afraid of the light. We are afraid to step out. We are afraid to become more. But how can we lead others to a destination we have not reached? Keep searching, son. I'm urging you to seek the light that you seem so far in the distance. It will be worth the journey. You will become a lighthouse of personal growth and power, and by your example and leadership, you will prevent many a worthy man from crashing his life upon the rocks of mediocrity. Wow. I think that is so powerful. Personal growth is so powerful. And he goes on to share a little bit more about you know, I want to share a little bit of this with you, actually. And so, David asks, are you ever bothered what other people say about you? Lincoln says, as you may know, I'm the first ever Republican president. I was elected by a minority of the popular vote, and even some members of my cabinet view me as third-rate. To many of the elite in Washington, I'm an unrefined outsider. If I were to concern myself with the newspaper columns that label me dishonest or stupid, if I had feelings destroyed every time a political opponent called me an ape or a buffoon, I would never be about the work for which I was born. The president stood and shoved his hands in his pocket. Sooner or later, every man of character will have that character questioned. Every man of honor and courage will be faced with unjust criticism. But never forget that unjust criticism has no impact whatsoever upon the truth. And the only sure way to avoid criticism is to do nothing and be nothing. Oof, that's powerful. So, any of you guys getting criticism? Oh, man. All right. Okay, so the second part I wanted to share with you is more about the main message. And so they are at a time when there's a war, and let's see here. Okay, so David asks, what will you do if and when you win? The president asks, do you mean where will I lead this nation? Yes, after the war, what will be your first priority? The president says, this is rather an easy question to answer. In fact, I have spent many hours in prayerful consideration of my response. The first morning after all hostilities cease, I will greet the day with a forgiving spirit. David was stunned. How can you? I don't understand. It's a very simple concept, actually, and it's the single most important action I take on a regular basis. Forgiveness allows me to be an effective husband, father, friend, and leader of this country. Confused, David asked, what does this forgiveness have to do with being effective? Have you ever been so angry or upset with someone that all you could think of was that person and the horrible way they treated you? You think about them when you should be sleeping and all the things you should have said or would like to say come to mind. When you could be enjoying an evening with your family, your children aren't foremost in your thoughts. That person who offended you is receiving all your energy. You feel as if you might explode. Have you ever felt that way? David nodded. Yes, I have. The president says, well, so have I. I owe business failures, marital strife, and defeats in several political races to those very feelings. But I also owe a great deal of the success I enjoy to the discovery of this simple secret. What secret, David asked? The secret of forgiveness. It is a secret that is hidden in plain sight. It costs nothing and was worth millions. It is available to everyone and used by few. If you harness the power of forgiveness, you will be revered, sought after, and wealthy, and not coincidentally, you will also be forgiven by others. David looked puzzled. Just who is that I'm supposed to forgive? The president answers, everyone. But what if they don't ask for forgiveness? The president answers, most will not. Amazingly, many of these dastardly people who dare to occupy our minds with angry thoughts are actually wandering about in life without any knowledge of our feelings or any conviction that they have done anything wrong. David frowned. I'm sure that's all true, but I still don't understand how you can forgive someone who doesn't ask for forgiveness. You know, for many years I thought forgiveness was akin to a knighthood, something I bestowed upon some poor wretch who groveled at my feet and begged my blessings. But as I matured and observed successful people, I gained a new perspective on forgiveness. Think about this concept. Where's the rule written that before I forgive people, they have to deserve it? The unmistakable truth about forgiveness is that it is not a reward that must be earned. It is a gift to be given. When I give forgiveness, I free my own spirit to release the anger and hatred harbored in my heart. By granting forgiveness, I free my spirit to pursue my future, happily and unencumbered by the anchors of my past. And forgiveness, when granted to others, becomes a gift to myself. David nodded. I guess I never considered forgiveness to be something under my control. David, you're at a critical point in your life. And there exists this person to whom your forgiveness has been withheld for far too long. By the limited authority I have been granted as your host for this short time, I must now warn you that without a forgiving spirit, your effectiveness as a husband, a father, and a leader of people will be at an end. The key to everything your future holds, the touchstone that will, for you, bring dreams into reality is forgiveness. David's mouth was open, and he was confused and astonished. Who is it? Who is it? The president had a sip of water and was about to leave. David stops him and says, "You're about to go out there and I'll never see you again. You as much as said my life would be over if I did not forgive this person. So if it's that important, tell me, who must I forgive?" The president looked carefully into David's eyes and said simply, "Yourself." Tears formed in David's eyes, and he shook his head. Softly he said, "I didn't think." David, your wife is not mad at you. Your child's not mad at you. Your friends, of which I am one, are not mad at you. And God is not mad at you. So, David, don't you be mad at you. Forgive yourself. Begin anew. And so, there's a little bit more to the chapter, but that is basically the end of their conversation. And I'm going to read you the scroll that the president wrote for David. The sixth decision for success. I'll greet this day with a forgiving spirit. For too long, every ounce of forgiveness I owned was locked away, hidden from view, waiting for me to bestow its precious presence upon some worthy person. Alas, I found most people to be singularly unworthy of my valuable forgiveness, and since they never asked for any, I kept it all for myself. Now, the forgiveness that I hoarded has sprouted inside my heart, like a crippled seed yielding bitter fruit. No more. At this moment, my life has taken on new hope and assurance. Of all the world's population, I'm one of the few possessors of the secret to dissipating anger and resentment. I now understand that forgiveness has value only when it is given away. By the simple act of granting forgiveness, I release the demons of the past about which I can do nothing, and I create myself a new heart, a new beginning. I will greet this day with a forgiving spirit. I will forgive even those who do not ask for forgiveness. Many are the times when I have seethed in anger at a word or deed thrown into my life by an unthinking or uncaring person. I have wasted valuable hours imagining revenge or confrontation. Now I see the truth revealed about this psychological rock inside my shoe. The rage I nurture is often one-sided, for my offender seldom gives thought to his offense. I will now and forevermore silently offer my forgiveness even to those who do not see that they need it. By the act of forgiving, I am no longer consumed by unproductive thoughts. I give up my bitterness, I am content in my soul, and effective again with my fellow man. I'll greet this day with a forgiving spirit. I forgive those who criticize me unjustly. Knowing that slavery in any form is wrong, I also know that the person who lives a life according to the opinion of others is a slave. I am not a slave. I have chosen my counsel. I know the difference between right and wrong. I know what is best for the future of my family, and neither misguided opinion nor unjust criticism will alter my course. Those who are critical of my goals and dreams simply do not understand the higher purpose to which I have been called. Therefore, their scorn does not affect my attitude or action. I forgive their lack of vision and I forge ahead. I now know that criticism is part of the price paid for leading past mediocrity. I will greet this day with a forgiving spirit. I will forgive myself. For many years, my greatest enemy has been myself. Every mistake, every miscalculation, every stumble I made has been replayed again and again in my mind. Every broken promise, every day wasted, every goal not reached has compounded the disgust I feel for the lack of achievement in my life. My dismay has developed a paralyzing grip. When I disappoint myself, I respond with inaction and become more disappointed. I realized today that it is impossible to find an enemy living in my head. By forgiving myself, I erase the doubts, fears, and frustration that have kept my past in the present. From this day forward, my history will cease to control my destiny. I have forgiven myself. My life has just begun. I will forgive even those who do not ask for forgiveness. I will forgive those who criticize me unjustly. I will forgive myself. I will greet this day with a forgiving spirit. That, my friends, is the 6th decision for success and the second last scroll. And so I think this topic is so powerful and so important. And I'm not going to share too much on it, but I hope that if you haven't forgiven someone, that you choose to do so. Not for the other person, but for yourself. There's been a number of definitions that I've heard for forgiveness. One is to give as before, meaning before that person did anything that you thought wronged you, that you were able to love them as you did before, or treat them as you did before. Another one is, let me see if I can remember this, forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been any different. It doesn't mean that you accept that what happened was right. It's just accepting that it happened. And when you forgive, you give up the hope that you could change it. And so I know this is quite a deep topic, but if you need to, there's always professional help. But forgiveness is such an amazing power. And we all have that power within ourselves. And we all need to do it for ourselves. And I know that a lot of times people not realize, but first person you need to forgive is yourself, right? How can you truly forgive somebody else if you haven't forgiven yourself? Anyway, if anyone wants to chat about this, feel free to message me, but I'm going to just leave it there. Like I said, I know it's a pretty deep topic, so I hope you're all doing well, and I love you all.